Hey everybody, it's Anna and welcome back to my booktube channel. This video is going to be my Geekly Wrap-Up for the week of December 2nd through December 8th. Got it right on the first try. Heck yeah! In which I read 9 books and DNF'd 1. I also played a bunch of board games because that was the weekend that I went to PAX Unplugged, but my doo-doo head brain forgot to write down the board games that I played, so it's gonna take me a little while to track down the names because a lot of the games that we played aren't even released in the United States yet, or just aren't really released anywhere yet. So I will be making a video about that in future after I have had time to collect the scattered fragments of my thoughts. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the books. This week was the week of the Queer Lit Readathon and also the Bookie Trials Winter Quest, both of which I did, both of which I completed, including co-hosting the Queer Lit Readathon. Yes, it was so much fun. I cannot wait for the next round of both of these readathons because I love them. So the first book that I finished, I read on Kindle. It's called When They Call You a Terrorist, a Black Lives Matter memoir by Patrice Kahn-Cullors. I have my Goodreads up here to help jog my memory. This was an extremely important, extremely powerful book. I would recommend that everybody read it, especially if you are white. If you're white, you should read this book because I get a lot of, I hear a lot of people saying that they want to do things to try and help understand, racism and race issues in America. And I hear this mostly from white people, that they want to do this, but they just don't know how and they don't know where to begin. Begin with reading this book. This book will help you understand a lot about one individual's personal experience of police brutality and violence and how Black communities are forced into these situations where especially youth are seen as criminals from a very early age, and it leads to very negative, abusive, and horrific encounters with the police, when really police interference is not at all the best way to address the scenario that those people are going through at the time. This is by one of the founders of the Black Lives Matter movement, and she is also a queer Black woman, and I didn't realize that, but I'm glad that I found that out as I was reading, because you can also read this as a queer person of color's memoir. Definitely very good. Obviously, it does contain a lot of very triggering material for violence, torture, police brutality, all of that kind of thing. So just be aware of that going into it, but it is a very important book. It's a very well-written book, and I think everyone should read this. I kind of interspersed that with a little bit lighter-hearted stories, because a lot of my queer lit reads were really intense this year for some reason. So I also read The Tea Dragon Festival by Katie O'Neill. I've talked about this a bunch on my channel, but it is the prequel to her previous graphic novel, The Tea Dragon Society, and this book actually has disability rep in it as well. In addition to including the character that we later see uses a wheelchair in the Tea Dragon Society, there is also some drawing, pictorial representation of American Sign Language in this book. I don't really know much American Sign Language at all, so I cannot speak to how well this is interpreted through the book, but it is there, so just keep that in mind if you are looking for a book that contains some American Sign Language. And it was very sweet, and I liked it a lot. I also read an awesome short story collection for Queer Lit called Unbroken, 13 Stories Starring Disabled Teens, edited by Marika Niekamp. You've seen me talk about this before on my channel, and this book did not disappoint. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Like most short story collections, there are a couple that are weaker than the rest of them, but most of them I thought were exceptionally well written and inventive and unique. So yeah, total win for me there. Okay, finally also got around to reading the 4th Tenceret novella, which is The Ascent to Godhood by J.Y. Yang. This probably won't make any sense if you haven't been following this series, but if you haven't, then you should. This was really amazing. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I liked it a lot better than the last one in the series, and I cannot wait for their next book to come out. Just please never stop writing things. Just for me. For me personally. Please, please, please never stop writing things. Okay, another book that I read by a non-binary author as well, The Deep by Rivers Solomon. The Deep was actually the way that I found out that Rivers Solomon is non-binary, because I was like, oh, they, them pronouns? I didn't know that they used those pronouns. Gonna look this up. And this book is incredible. I first heard about it on Jesse's channel from Bow Ties and Books, and I did this as sort of a loose buddy read with some folks for the Bookie Trials Winter Quest. It was real good. It was real good. It was like simultaneously a story about human history and how we carry memory and trauma in our stories and also in our bodies. It was also kind of a story about climate change, which I didn't expect. Like, I knew that race was going to be an important topic in this story because the sort of like characters in the book are these merfolk almost, who are the descendants of pregnant women who jumped off of slave ships to escape the transatlantic slave trade. So I knew that there was going to be that in the book, but it also ended up being a story about climate change and a lot of other problems that intersect because obviously, you know, our identities intersect with the world that we live in. So this book was really incredible. Would highly recommend everyone read it. I read a couple books on Kindle because then I was on a plane. I read a short story called Waiting on a Bright Moon by J.Y. Yang. And I read a book that I didn't really care for. It's called Thaw by Elise Springer. The reason why I read this was because I'm wanting to read more romance. It was a queer romance and the protagonist is asexual, and I was like, that's interesting. I've only read one other book that's like heavily a romantic story where the protagonist is also ace. But this just wasn't written very well at all. The characters were very two-dimensional. The plot sort of magical things that happen in romance were way too unbelievable to be true in this book. Like, one person can't single-handedly salvage an entire, like, New York City borough's public library system. That just doesn't happen. I wish it did, but it doesn't. So I was more just like hate reading this book by the end of it. There wasn't anything that was like objectively terrible about it. It was just not good. So I gave it 3 out of 5. Then I finally finished, oh, where is it? Okay, there it is. The Winter of the Witch by Catherine Arden, which is the 3rd book in her Winter Night trilogy. This was kind of an emotional roller coaster. If you know anything else about the rest of the series, this is sort of the culmination where everything has been leading to the big final battle, final scene, showdown, etc. Gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Not going to say anything more about it because spoilers. Another 5-star read, wow, you're just like rolling in the 5-star reads this week, was To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. Becky Chambers continuously is able to make me cry with her amazing science fiction writing. This one really brought home a lot of the feelings of loneliness and isolation in space and the importance of community and finding something to hold onto, whether that be science, whether that be story, whether that be a shared experience. I can't really describe the feelings that this book made me feel because that's uncharted ground, and it was truly excellent. She hasn't written anything bad as far as I'm concerned. Everything she's written has been totally amazing. And then the book that I DNF'd was actually, sadly, a DNF because I know it's beloved by BookTube, and it was The Last True Poets of the Sea by Julia Drake, which is a, like, queer young adult retelling of Shakespeare's play Twelfth Night, which I love, which I've acted in. I adore the play. And I thought I was really going to enjoy this because, like the play Twelfth Night, it prominently features a shipwreck and themes of shipwrecks and the sea, but it was just such slow going that I couldn't bring myself to keep reading it. I got about halfway through it and I was like, why am I still reading this? It's like pulling teeth. I'm not enjoying it. I don't find any of the characters or their stories interesting or engaging, despite the fact that I know that it's Twelfth Night and I love Twelfth Night. So I just decided to abandon reading that book in favor of something that was a little bit more engaging, attention-grabbing, whatever you want to call it at the moment, because I was like, life is too short to read books you don't love when you're on vacation. Okay, so those are all of the books that I got through that week. Have you read any of these? I know some of you have, because I know some of you buddy read them with me. Yeah, leave a comment down below with some of your thoughts on these books if you have them, and if you don't, please give me... You know what? I'm gonna ask for your best, like, holiday romance recommendations because I am planning a, like, Hanukkah, 8 Nights of Hanukkah romance vlog series because I am working on reading more romance in the coming year. So yeah, please leave your favorite holiday romance recommendations down below. I will try and get to those because I really just want to read something comforting and cozy right now. It's been a rough few days, so... Thank you all, as always, so much for watching. Do not forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more of the things that I make, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.